And I have to say, from those looking on from outside of New Zealand, this isn't the image that one would necessarily associate with the country, with the sort of progressive ideals that we have come to associate with New Zealand. But tell us about what this investigation actually found in the most problematic sectors.
Hi, tēnā kōrua, ngā mihi nui kia kōrua. Thank you so much for having me here on your show. Appreciate it on behalf of Stuff. So I just wanted to point one thing out before I answer your question. So the Indigenous people of New Zealand are collectively called the Maori, but they are a group of tribes and sub-tribes from across the country, and we have had a difficult relationship with the Crown and all settlers from Europe, which isn't dissimilar to what's happened in other parts of the country like Australia, America and Canada. And so on that point, we can I can talk to you about why it shouldn't come as a surprise that we have had this racist and blinkered history over 160 years of news coverage. So there are many reasons why we looked into our history. Part of it was all news media must reflect what's happening in society. What's happening in society is change. All those power and authority structures are being questioned by the public about who they stand for and why stand for just particular groups of people, not all groups, right? So on the basis of Black Lives Matter, Me Too, all these things that are happening, say no to racism, there's so much stuff that's happening in society, coronavirus. These are all things that are happening. We are reflecting that. And part of the reason why we wanted to have a look at our history is because it was time, because our leadership had changed. Our new CEO, Sinead Beltran, bought our organisation earlier this year from the Australian company Nine. We had been under the Fairfax umbrella before Nine. And all these things means that we couldn't actually find our own identity as a New Zealand company because we were owned by overseas companies. So we are now New Zealand owned. Our boss, CEO Sinead Beltran, decided that we will use trust as our measure of success at Stuff. So all our products and our news organisation within Stuff would do that. And it's just changed the way we think about things. So we knew we couldn't look at trust without looking at diversity. And we don't have much diversity in our editorial newsrooms. So the majority of people, reporters in our company are Pākehā. Pākehā are descendants of white settlers or European people, or primarily people from British, so settlers, the grandchildren or the mokopuna of settlers, as well as people from Britain. So we have looked back at 160 years through all of our papers, through our digital platform, and found what we would call not best practice journalism, just outright racism at the start, because our papers, like many papers across the world, and the news media, were all set up by Pākehā men, white men. And those men majority came from Britain, and they set up papers, and they were here, and those papers were there to serve the interest and protect the interests of settlers.
So tell us a little bit about why this is important, why the way that these people are portrayed, how it affects their lives.
So I'm Maori. I'm from Ngāti Kaumunu and Ngāti Hine. Those are my mum and dad's tribes. I personally, when I'm not a reporter, it has impacted on my life. It has hurt my family because what has happened, because the history and the legacy of our papers has been to protect and serve the interests of the majority, which is Pākehā New Zealand. What it means is that how we have reported on Māori and other minority groups, not just Māori, other minority groups and Māori, is it's been racist. It has served a purpose. It's created stereotypes, negative stereotypes. It's created social stigma for my people. And that has really hurt. It's an intergenerational hurt that has been perpetuated by the news media, because we know that the news media is powerful. It has authority. People in the communities listen and hear what we say. We shape the views and opinions of society. And if those views and opinions match the views and opinions that are mainly in our newsrooms and in our stories, what we start to see is we see a negative social stigma and stereotypes against my people. And that's what's happened. And in one of the investigations we found, particularly around child abuse, we were focused on creating an image that Maori families, people like my families, were responsible and were the perpetrators, the only perpetrators of child abuse in this country, which just isn't true. What we also found in that investigation is we were leaving out other children where we should have been uplifting and supporting and bringing to light and bringing to attention the abuse of children, of all children, not just Maori children. We hadn't. So we let down all children.